Hello everyone and welcome. My name's Ophélie and I'm here with Emily and Alexandra. And I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight. It really means a lot. I had the idea for this project a few months ago, and the idea was to bring people together to talk about things that have changed mine and lots of people's lives. So thank you for being here with us. And so the idea, the theme for tonight is ancient wisdom and taking healing into your own hands. And that's because that was sort of really significant for me, because in the past 2 years I've been through this really intense healing journey, which has been hard but amazing as well. And so for those of you who don't know me, and for those of you who do, but I haven't spoken loads to you about, I got COVID just over 2 years ago, and that led to long COVID, so I had a lot of inflammation in my body. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't have a conversation with anyone. I'd have to sort of stare into space for 20 minutes afterwards. So it was quite intense. And then that led to me leaving my job because I couldn't work and moving back home with my parents, which I was really lucky to be able to do, because some people aren't that lucky and have to support people financially, so I was very lucky, but it was still really difficult. And during that time, I also went to see lots of doctors who didn't really know what was wrong with me, because all my vital organs were functioning correctly. So I was kind of left to fend for myself. And it was difficult because no one, you couldn't really tell on the outside that I was ill. So sometimes it was quite lonely. And then by chance, and I really believe that when you need something, it's shown to you if you're ready to accept it and ready to see it. And by chance, a few months after getting ill, I came across this Instagram page, which was a Qigong page. And it was this teacher who was doing these free lives every morning. And that's how I know Emily, actually. And she talked a lot about her own healing journey. And because I was basically quite desperate at that point, I felt really lonely, didn't know what was wrong, didn't know how to get better. So I kind of latched onto that. And then from then on, it sort of snowballed into discovering all these amazing things, whether it's about physical health, but also emotional, mental, and just learning to know yourself much better in a much deeper way. So it was really amazing. And it was really difficult. But actually, I realized that it was a huge gift, and I'm really, really grateful that I was ill, because it's led me to know myself much, much better, which is really nice. And just to go back to what I was saying, it was really hard actually when it happened, because it felt like everything that I'd built my life around and everything that I built my self-worth around had basically just fell away. So I didn't have my health. I'd just come out of a relationship, so I didn't have a boyfriend. Shout out to them today. We're friends now, so it's good. And then I didn't have any money, I didn't have a job, and I moved back in with my parents. So on paper, it just all fell away, and I learned to rebuild everything in a different way. And now I'm so much happier than I was before I was ill, even though materially, it's not materially, because I don't really have any of those things anymore anyway. So, but I just feel better because I found this depth inside me and this sort of power that I didn't know I had. And I hope, and so that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and more specifically about learning to reconnect with your body, which is such a beautiful gift, because our bodies are always talking to us. And so tonight I have wonderful guests who actually know what they're talking about. So Emily, Lisanti, and Alexandra, Moncreiffe, who are here. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I hope you all, this inspires you maybe in a small way to think about, I don't know, maybe you'll hear something that will resonate with you, and maybe you'll find a need to go deeper within yourself, because it's a really wonderful journey. So I wish it upon everyone.
Thank you.
So before we start, I'm going to ask you all some questions. So who here meditates? Can you put your hand up? Ooh, okay, not bad. Who here practices yoga? Okay, smaller. And then Qigong. Ooh, yeah. And does anyone know what Qigong actually is?
I know.
Okay, so pretty good. And then for those who practice one of those things, can you raise your hand if it's had an impact on your life, a positive impact preferably, if you've seen it change? Okay, nice. And can you raise your hand if you have no idea what I'm talking about and this all sounds crazy? Okay, thank you for your honesty.
I just don't know what Qigong is.
Okay, well you'll find out. Okay, nice. And you should all have a piece of paper. We don't have very many pens, but if you don't have, well, for questions, but if it's too complicated, we'll just do hands up at the end. But yeah, so let's start. So Emily, we met through, so as I was saying, we met through Instagram, and you are a yoga and Qigong teacher, which also involves meditation. And you have quite a big social media presence, which I really like, because you really share your healing journey and everything. No, which is really cool. Which is too much. No, it's needed. I think it's really good. And I know you've suffered from some eating disorders and other health problems. Can you, how connected are those health issues with what you are, where you are now? Like, how was your personal journey? How did you get to this point?
Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here, and thanks everybody for coming. But yeah, so I think what you spoke about as well, with having to hit that point sometimes of having a health issue or having either physical, mental, emotional issue that comes about in your life, in order to catapult you into learning more about your healing and your personal growth and your spiritual journey as a whole, sometimes needs to happen. Like, what was the quote I said? I think I said it in some like TikTok or something. Yeah. And it's just like, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to go up. Like, sometimes you need to hit that lowest point to be like, okay, I need to fucking do something. Like, I need to like make a change. I think sometimes you need to hit it. Some people are lucky enough to find healing modalities earlier on and not have to hit that rock bottom, but I definitely went to that rock bottom place, and I struggled with, so I had like a lot of just a weird relationship with food, I guess, like my whole life. So it was kind of just like, I would either, I don't know, just like a yo-yo weird relationship with food, but also with asthma. I had really bad asthma, and I was not treating my body correctly during my uni years and like in high school and stuff, and I was just like really just not paying attention to my body signals at all, like completely ignoring my physical body and what it was telling me, and I was, just like dabbling in all sorts of things, and it was making my asthma worse, and it was making then my vertigo worse, and then that little beautiful mix of the two gave me panic attacks. So I was also having like deep anxiety and panic attacks, and the three of those were not fun. And that was also like it was the heaviest during COVID, which was also quite scary, because I was like, dude, if I get COVID, like I don't know what's gonna happen, because like I couldn't really breathe. So I did have to hit that point as well, where it was like, I knew I needed to make a change. And as Ophélie said, like you kind of sometimes get guided into it. I believe by some, like a higher power in some sort of way, like if you need to get that sort of help, but Western medicine isn't working. Like I was on inhalers, and I was on, what else was I on? They gave me like painkillers that were for like 45-year-old men, and a doctor was like, no one should have given you those painkillers. Like apparently the steroids were like insanely strong. They were shocked, because I'm like a small 5'4" girl. Like they were like, this is not normal. But nothing was working, so then I was like, okay, I need to take this into my own hands a little bit, like do some self-healing work. And that's when I started to like find books about meditation, and it was this weird thing where it was like, I wouldn't even try to look for the books. Like, this sounds weird, but they would kind of like find me. Like, I feel like somebody would say a book title, and I'd be like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, I want to read that.
And they come back a lot as well.
Yeah, and then they like would tie in, and then I would like read a book, and then I would talk to somebody, and they would bring up the book, like just randomly, and I'd be like, yeah, no, I'm reading that right now. Like, just this weird journey of kind of being catapulted into the meditation, and then meeting, or I knew my aunt already, but like meeting her different side, because she's a Chinese medicine practitioner. So she would do Qigong, and she would also do like, not birth chart readings, but some other type of reading. Bazi. Yeah, if you guys haven't gotten your Bazi reading, you should get it with her. It's really cool. It tells you a lot about like your elements and stuff like that. But yeah, so I started the journey, and then I learned about Qigong, and funnily enough, started to practice Qigong. My asthma got completely better. My panic attack stopped. My vertigo, my body was balanced. Like, it was insane how quickly and effectively it changed. And I realized that like me just getting more in touch with my body and grounding into my body and like being more present with myself and what my body was telling me, the signals it was telling me, completely changed the game for me. And now it's like, I'll still have fun, like I'll still go out, like I'll still do things that are not like all healthy all the time. I'm not saying I'm like gonna sit in a meditation for my entire life, you know, but like it really just told me like how to listen to my body, how to hear it out, and how to know when to stop and pull back on some things. And yeah, it's just like the power of self-healing, along with sometimes Western medicine, if you do need it, like completely, they should be balanced and depending on the circumstance. But I think the power of self-healing is really crazy. Like it's crazy, and it totally changed my life. So I'm super passionate about it, and I'm excited to be here tonight because I just feel like I could ramble forever.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I think it's really good to hear other people's experiences, and we'll like talk more about what you said about like people experiencing suffering to get to that point, but also inversely. So thank you, Emily.
Thank
and
you.
Alex. So we've known each other for, I think, over 10 years through Eliza, your sister who's here tonight. And I've seen you, I think, through different parts of your life, so through parties, but then last month we were swimming in the Hampstead Heath ponds in the freezing cold, talking about all this stuff. So we've seen each other through different times. And you're now a yoga teacher and a holistic health counsellor who specialises in herbalism. And I know you've had your own journey and like your own healing process, I guess. Would you be happy to tell us a bit more about it and how you got to this point?
Sure.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, so it's funny.
Quite close to it, I think.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah, so I suppose like throughout my whole life, throughout my childhood, I always had like quite like a background sense of displacement. It was as if like I always perceived everything as if everyone else kind of understood how to do life. Like there was a right way of doing things. Like people understood how to make friends better than me, or do school or sport better than me, and as if everyone was getting this sense of external validation, whether it's from teachers or friends or parents. And yeah, even if I got that, it was never, from time to time, it was never enough to sort of feel totally like whole and full. And so yeah, throughout my childhood I struggled with anxiety and low self-esteem and low moods. And I always had this interest in spirituality and wellness and health, but I suppose with all the distraction of school and where our focus is directed, I was never allowed to explore that fully. So when I left school, that was just like a really, exciting opportunity to have freedom, but it kind of went both ways, where I had 2 years of total chaos and wild partying, and then also the freedom to explore what I was interested in, so explore a bit more meditation and spirituality, and using that to balance out all the crazy life of living in London and partying. And then more and more, like the sort of benefits or like sense of release that I felt from these modalities that I was learning about started to feel more beneficial than the releases I was getting from partying and going a bit wild.
It's more like instant gratification, whereas this build up of like deeper
inner wisdom, exactly. And so I would work for like most of the year in London, and then use that rest of my year to go traveling and learn about the different modalities I was interested in. So I would travel to India, and I did my yoga teacher trainings there. And then I came back to the UK, and all of the benefits that I was, sorry, I'm quite nervous. I wrote like so many notes, like really, really small. I have to keep track of myself.
Well, I was going to say, because I think that, Emily, when you talk about your symptoms, I guess they were more physical in a way, even though it all manifests together. And Alexandra, thank you by the way for sharing. But it's very sort of maybe it was more emotional and mental in a way, and they kind of all fit together. But there is this underlying suffering. I guess healing implies suffering and implies pain, whether it's emotional, mental, or physical. How do you see, because I think also the things that we're talking about, and we will kind of specify what Qigong is at some point, I promise. But they're like thousands of years old Asian traditions, Qigong, yoga and meditation. And they're sort of now trending in the West. And why do you think that they're so powerful? What do they bring concretely? I guess, Alexandra, what have you experienced, concretely, if you're happy to talk about that?
So one of the most empowering things for me with yoga was that I was modeling in London when I first moved here, and I kind of took up yoga as a way to keep my body healthy and fit, but I stayed in it because of the amazing, stress release, balance that gave me to all the sort of crazy mental symptoms that I was having at the time. And also going back to the external validation thing, I went for the reason of making my body look better, but I stayed because it built my relationship with my body in a whole new way, where I appreciated my body for how I could move, and it was almost like having a wonderful, and it still is, having a wonderful conversation with my body. And so, and I think that's one of the most important things in this modern world. We're all kind of walking around just bodiless heads, so much in our minds, and it's a wonderful way to ground back into the center of your being.
Yeah, that's so well said.
Well said.
Well, Emily, can you tell us what Qigong is?
No, I'm gonna keep it a secret. No, Qi means means energy. Okay, Qi means energy or life force energy. So it's basically, it's even a bit hard to explain. It's from Taoism, and it's from in Chinese medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, they all talk about your qi. And if you put it in general terms, I guess you could say physically, it's your blood flow, your circulation, your breathing, your just all the functions of your body all in one, your energy. But in more spiritual terms, life force energy is God source, whatever is feeding life into all of us, So it's our qi that connects all of us. That is our life force energy. And gong means work or skill. So it's basically energy work or energy skill. It's working with your energy. And whenever somebody asks me, they're like, what is that? And I'm like, okay, Tai Chi, right?
The people in the park
Tai Chi
that you see.
Yeah, so you it's flowy movements.
It's basically that.
Yeah, so it is that. And so Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. So there's 364 types of Qigong, and they're all different, just sequences or themes, and I'll share quickly. I just think it's really cool, how it started. Rice paddy workers in China, a really, really long time ago. I should know the more detailed years, but they would get really sick when they were working out in the rice paddies, get really ill, just get colds and whatever. And they would convene at a fire pit at night and dance together and just have fun. They would just have a little party, and they would dance. And they would do, each dance would kind of symbolize an animal or an element in nature or something like that. And they would be kind of copying these things that they were seeing in their everyday lives. And then they started to realize that they were getting less sick because they were doing these dances. And then they started to form recognize that these movements were actually healing them. And so then they created all these different sequences and different like themes for Qigong, but that's how it got started. So that's what it is. But it's really like a mind, body, spirit thing, because it is physical, but there are some that are a little more, like as you said, some can actually like get you into shape and like be like more fitness based, but it is mainly more flowy, more meditative, and just like yoga and Qigong, they're both moving meditation. So it's like meditation is simply just like being present, you know, it doesn't need to be you sitting in a cross-legged position. It can be you on a walk, it can be you on a run, it can be you dancing, it can be you writing poetry if that's your thing, you know.
Like mindfulness,
it's just being mindful and whatever brings you to the moment.
How do you see because obviously because when I discovered yoga years ago, I would just do it in the gym and I was just doing it to work out. And how do you see like what's the difference between doing that and then going to an actual yoga studio and having sort of that deeper impact? Alex, do you want to
So how do you mean the difference between going
to a gym class, you know, and it's just a random yoga, and it's great because you're breathing, but then going to somewhere where you have the whole experience, you know, what would it like, why is that different?
Yeah, well, because yoga is so much more than the physical practice. Like there are 8 limbs of yoga and only one limb is about the actual physical practice. And the whole goal of yoga is to really, it's like meditation again, it's to focus the mind until you can reach a sense of like deep inner connection. So really I would say it's not much about the place, but it's more about the intention that you go into the practice with. So you can actually go into a gym and do like a normal yoga practice, but if your intention is there to be present and focused with your body, then you're doing proper yoga. But you can have amazing teachers and amazing places that facilitate that experience.
Do you think that it's about, because I don't know when I think about all these things, because you can just be exercising, and do you think that people today are just disconnected? I mean, it's what you're saying, you know, with bodies walking around. Do you think that that's just what it is? I mean, we're just heads walking around like not connected. Do you think that's the problem today, you know, that we're completely,
I think that's a huge problem for a lot of people. Obviously not everyone, but we live in a way that is very disconnected from nature. And the wonderful thing about nature is, you know, when we're living in the city, there's so much stimulation, and we get so much stimulation from our phones, and because we have the phone, we have to be, you know, we're almost like beholden to be constantly online and constantly available, which completely draws you up into your mind, and our senses almost switch off because it's too much. Whereas when you go back into nature, your senses can relax, you can open up, and your senses will draw you into your body.
Yeah, so interesting. Well, I'm also thinking, so for people, because obviously we've had, you know, these things have really helped us through difficult periods in our life. But for people here who think, okay, well, that's great, I'm glad that they're feeling better, but I'm absolutely fine. My life is fine, I'm good, so this actually has nothing to do with me, which I'm sure a lot of people are thinking. And I guess, you know, why would it be helpful for them as well? Like, what does it bring on top of just feeling better in your body if you're not feeling well? And also, why do you keep practicing these things if you're healed? You know, in essence, you're healed. And I do think that everyone needs to heal to some extent, whether it's obvious or not. But yeah, what do you think about that, Emily?
So I think that in general, like whether you literally get in 5 minutes of meditation in the morning, that's going to change your day. Or like if you do 10 minutes of yoga or Qigong or anything, honestly, that brings you a sense of that connection with your body and a sense of like, because yoga means union, so it's like mind-body union. You're really connecting with yourself and with your true essence. And I think that if you do that, you can do it any time of the day, but especially the morning, if you carry it out into your day, even if you are fully healed or you think you don't need it or whatever, it makes you sharper, it makes you more focused, it makes you feel a deeper sense of joy in each moment. Like it literally just I feel like it's like life is life, and then like if you do these things, it makes life so much more enjoyable. Like it's not even for the healing, it's just to enhance your experience. Like I truly believe that it does make every single moment more, and it's a constant practice too. It's like meditation, for example, if you're not going to do the yoga and the Qigong, if you just find time to be more present and be more meditative, and also just, it's simply the practice of like noticing that you're not your thoughts and you're not your feelings, right? We're the thing that's observing the thoughts and the feelings. So if you're more observant of where your mind is at all throughout the day, you can choose your thoughts more easily. You can manifest things into your life more easily. You can choose how you want to show up. You can choose how you respond to things. Like, it literally just makes you like act in life so much better. And again, if you don't practice this, I'm not saying you're acting badly in life, but I feel like it just enhances everything, and it's just really for confidence levels too. Like, I just feel like my confidence is like, I used to be I was so deeply insecure, and I think that's where a lot of my like eating stuff stemmed from and stuff. And it was like, now seeing my thought patterns and like meditating and then coming out and seeing, connecting with my body, but also seeing where my thoughts were going and where my thought patterns were going. It was like, well, obviously I don't feel good about that because this thought pattern is completely, continually repeating, Emily, you suck, Emily, you suck. Like, you know what I mean? So obviously, like, if I don't break that thought pattern, that's on a subconscious level, if I don't do the work to actually heal that, that's going to guide me through life. And like, that's going to take me away from job opportunities. That's going to make me more, or, you know, more insecure in a conversation. Like, it's just, it is really, it's doing the inner work, even if you feel like you don't need to, will enhance your life on every level.
Yeah. It's like a power, it's like what I was saying earlier, it's this power that you find inside that you don't realize that you have, and that we all have, and sometimes it's taken away by what I think also the society we live in, what you think is important, and obviously it's important to be in real life as well, but not having that attachment to all those things, and finding that sense of self-worth deeper within, which is really nice. Alex, what else did I No. I do actually, when you're thinking, like, how do you reconcile? Because also, what I was saying about how the West is kind of a trend in the West today, and that can also be a bad thing. I think the wellness industry is like worth $5 trillion, something ridiculous, and the mindfulness part is like 3 to 6% of people's income is spent on that. So it's become like this huge business, and there are a lot of things that I think maybe can take us away from like what we have inside already. And how do you balance that with it being your business, and also just finding that light within you and not thinking that you have to go and like spend loads and loads of money to find that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Also because I think that the reason these modalities exist are because like yoga probably came out of someone just rolling around in like really interesting positions that felt really great, and then they realized, hey, this stuff works, so they systematized it for other people to use. And so there's so many like things and like modalities out there for us to use, and they can seem quite gimmicky, but I think that a wonderful thing to do with a practice when you learn it is to really make it your own and be in that almost beginner's mindset of like what was the goal when they invented this, like what are we trying to achieve. And so a wonderful thing that I do, you know, my own yoga practice now when I'm not teaching is really me just tuning into my own body and doing, it usually ends in wild spangle dancing with like no like proper poses at all. And I think that is important, is to have your own relationship with the practice that you're using. And was there another part of the question?
No, that's very good. No, because we did speak about this as well, about how, and I quite like this quote, which is, if you ever meet the Buddha, kill the Buddha. Basically means if you meet someone who tells you this is the truth, then it's probably not the truth. So you need to find that within yourself, and find what's true to you, what's true to your body, which I think is really nice. But then you have amazing people like you guys who sort of guide us to what, you know, might feel true to us, and also share your personal stories, which really helps, I think. How are we doing for time? Yeah. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
You want to,
Alex, I'll let you.
I think as well, I think a point that we were gonna maybe like hit on as well was balancing it with Western medicine.
Yeah.
And just like if you do we're all going to go through like mental, emotional, and physical things in our lives, struggles, and I think that it's so interesting because, well, especially in America, like I feel like big pharma and everything, it's very they give out a lot of just like drugs and pills for basically anything under the sun. Like a lot of my friends in even university like just got Adderall for they just said they had something and they got free Adderall or just whatever. They were prescribed anything in America, and it's a huge issue in America, I believe. But I think that knowing also when you are getting treated for something, it is balancing the two, like balancing self-healing and taking care of yourself whilst also maybe dealing with Western medicine, but it is taking the preventative care as well. Yeah. So it's like you're not only doing these practices to enhance your life and what I just was going on about before, but just doing it because these things will help you later in life. Because obviously as we get older, like you're more prone to different things, and who knows, but if you're doing this preventative care and doing it every day just little by little and being more mindful about it, then you're priming your body to be healthier and priming your body and your immune system and everything to be more effective and more defensive against things. And yeah, like even, or just I'll touch on this quickly too, but like this thing called gua sha, it's something that I really is great. But I used it for my asthma, but like people do it. I think the more common one right now, it's like trendy, is like you use like a stone on your face and you get the high cheekbones and it's great for that. But it also really helps on your body and it's really great. So majority of illness is caused by inflammation, and stress causes inflammation, right? And we're also highly stressed nowadays. So inflammation within the body, if not tended to, will build up and turn into different diseases in the body. So this gua sha, it's kind of crazy. Like when I first started doing it with my asthma, it looked like I had this insane rash all over my body, because you can use a proper tool. You can literally use a 1 pence piece or a soup spoon, and you just like scrape very lightly with like oil.
I've turned a lot of people into gua sha at dinner parties. I'm like, you got a sore back? Let me do it. And they're like, oh my god, what is this? Yeah. Good. Well, it's unreal though, and I feel like just speaking on this point of preventative care, like if you do that, I don't know, like 1 to 2 times a week, not even like having anything specific that you're targeting. I was targeting my lung area, so it would really get red because it's like all that inflammation is coming out from your body, coming up onto the surface and releasing. But if you just do it 1 time a month even, like it's really helping your body, because your body is consistently building up stress, consistently building up inflammation. When we get 2 texts on our phone, stress, like constant. And even when we don't feel stressed, our minds are not supposed to be as on as they are in this like day and age. I feel so in this day and age.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. Yeah, the body keeps the score. Is this
on still?
Yeah.
Moving on.
And another thing I would say is like, because it can seem like there are so many things to do, like so many modalities, and there can be so much pressure to think like, how the hell am I going to fit, all of this into my day when you've got a life to live as well. So yeah, I think another really important thing is just to use what's useful for you at the time, and that will adapt and change throughout your journey. And also your whole life doesn't have to change just because you start incorporating in, a few modalities that are working for you. And when I was thinking about some things I wanted to talk about today, making my minuscule little notes I can't even read, I was on a train and I was going past all these fields of white birds, and I suddenly realized that they were swans. And at first I was just like, oh, lovely swans. And then a second later I was like, wow, this is amazing, there's so many swans. Don't see that every day. And so I looked up the spiritual meaning of swans, and it was all about self-love, which was pretty much, what this whole what the plan is with all this stuff. And then also I found this story, which then online, and then when I was reading my book 5 minutes later, which is this amazing book, Anna Cara, everyone should read it, the same story came up 5 minutes later, which was amazing. And it's this old Celtic story about King Lear lived in Ireland, and his children were turned into swans, but they still maintained their human minds and their human personalities. And I thought that was quite a wonderful metaphor for this kind of work, where you can kind of surrender into your wild animal free body, but still live your rational daily, life.
Yeah. And it just makes it better. It just makes it like deeper and better. Yeah, so nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you,
Love
Alex
it.
and Emily. Thanks. That's really
That's
beautifully
really
put.
That's
I
amazing.
think we'll do some questions now. If anyone has any questions. Oh yeah, okay, we'll just do the hands up. We'll do the hands up. Let's just do that.
Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The gentleman at the table.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That was a great talk. That was amazing. Thank you very much. Alexandra, you alluded to it at the start, but I'm wondering, Emily, say with a practice like Qigong, is it something you read about and you know instantly, that's for me, I want to try it out? Or is it something that like was a sort of slow burn and you're not really sure and you have to try it out for a while and that kind of thing?
Great question, thank you. Slow burn, 100%. Like when I first tried it, I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
I think
it's quite weird when you do it in front of people.
Yeah, and it's a thing too where it's like, since it's like more slow based movement, you have to learn how to relax your body whilst you're practicing. So when I first started doing it, I was so anxious that like my muscles were so tight, and you can't really feel anything when you're like tightening your muscles. You have to be relaxed to feel your energy or your chi, because when you start doing it, like for example, there's one move that's called the chi ball, and you're like literally pulsing your energy in front of you, and it's sick because once you start practicing more and more, you can feel it so intensely. Like you can feel this like it's like an out of body experience. It's really cool, but you have to continue to practice, because it's like if you start with like a 10-minute video on YouTube or something, you might be like, I feel foolish. But then you continue, and then you start to love it. So yeah, definitely. I mean, but also, who knows? It's to each their own. But for me, definitely, it was like, I don't know what's happening, and then I started to get obsessed. Like, because, yeah, you feel the after effects too. Yeah.
Ooh, that makes me want to try it.
Yeah, you should.
I just want to say a quick story but this is about yoga, but just to show you how, like, a concrete example of how it changed my life, was I did a 3-week, hello?
That works now.
I did a 3-week yoga course last year, and I used to have really, really bad period pains where I'd be like really in horrible pain, would sometimes pass out. And since this yoga course, which was all about reconnecting to my body, I haven't had one period pain since then, and it's really amazing. And actually last month I was practicing a bit less, just being more like all over the place and frantic, and then I got like the pains came back a bit. So that's just sort of a concrete example, which it's really helpful. Yeah. Yes, William.
Do you ever wonder if some of this stuff is placebo and does it matter?
Who invited you?
Someone's going to ask the hard questions.
I want to hit on that too.
But yeah, I suppose that like the idea behind a placebo is that it's it's a benefit created by your mind. So that's really that's the whole aim of the game. We're like honing and getting control over our minds to reap the benefits of these practices. So in a way, yes, it is a placebo, but placebos work.
Isn't everything a placebo?
I was just gonna say the same thing. I think as well, like in going deeper and deeper into my spiritual journey now, I've learned about. I feel like the chapter I'm on now of learning is like how much beliefs create our reality. Like what we believe to be true for us will be true, and what we believe will work for us, aka literal placebo. So I feel like these things do help. You do feel the benefits physically, like you can't really lie about that, but also it's definitely a mixture. Because if like we're hearing that these things are healing processes, then in our minds we're saying, okay, we're doing this for healing, and then of course it will give a more healing effect because we're believing that it will. So I think.
It's a virtuous circle.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But if it helps, it helps.
Yes. Oh, well, yeah.
thank you guys for being so honest. I think that's really inspiring for a lot of people who are here. And I think for me personally, I want to get more in touch with my body and maybe even start Qigong. How did you start? Whether it was a book you read or a teacher maybe that I should start following on Instagram. and then how do you maintain it, right? Maybe you start it for a couple of weeks and then you see the benefits, but it's hard to maintain. How do you guys do it?
I think that, so I first got into it by going to the Life Centre. There's one in Islington, one in Notting Hill, and they're like really beautiful classes with amazing teachers. So I'd recommend that if you want to get into yoga. But yeah, like after my I think you need to find something that works for you. Like it's not a one size fits all. Different modalities will work for different people, and there's a lot more than just yoga and Qigong. But yeah, when I came out of that first yoga class, I literally felt like I was walking on rainbows and sunshine and felt amazing. And it was interesting because there was that burst of like amazing effects, and then you do have to keep at it, and that's what drew me in. And then you have to keep the practice going, and then it was like you said, a slow burn over time of suddenly realizing like the circumstances in my life changing, and that was probably because my perspective on life was changing. So I think also the slow benefits is what keeps you there.
And sometimes, I would say, sometimes it brings up difficult things within you, so you can think, oh no, this is too much, or actually it's not working. And I think it's always about sort of pushing through and realizing that's just stuff coming up and you need to let it out, which is scary but good, worth it.
I think as well, starting, because you asked about books too, so like of course you want to know what you're doing while you're doing it, you know? So I think it's like even you could reach out to any of us after this as well, and we could like recommend books if you wanted to start with that. But I think reading a book as well as trying to practice it at the same time is beneficial, because you'll actually be like, okay, I know that what I'm doing, I know why I'm doing this. If you're just doing it and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, then it's not as effective. But I think if you learn even not about specifically Qigong or yoga, but like read a kind of like your first like spiritual book or kind of like self-healing book, then it's really, all the ones I've read thus far are very beautifully written and like very inspiring, and you just are kind of like, you just want to keep learning more, you know? Yeah.
I'm going to take this opportunity to say that there is a website, ideasofthespheres.com, and I put loads of this stuff on the website, like books, podcasts, films, people, like techniques, loads of stuff, so you can go and find more stuff like that.
That's great.
Yeah. Any other? Well, I'll go for Dylan first, because
thank you. Question for any of you. I've experienced some meditation courses, and I think it is common but not really spoken about, but with other people and myself, real difficulties coming up because of what I was doing. It's not something that's really ever spoken about. I wondered if any of you had that, and if you then found that to be beneficial, because I think it's hard to see sometimes how it can be. But yeah, just if you'd experienced that.
Yeah, I think that's a really common thing. In herbalism, they call that like a healing crisis. And it's because, most people are, we numb out when traumatic things happen to us and we suppress them. But that doesn't mean that they're not within us and they're not going to manifest in some other way. And so often that's why people get physical illnesses later in life. It's really stored trauma in the body trying to find a way out. So it's actually a wonderful thing if you can process that consciously through your consciousness, then your body, then it won't store in your body. There's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score, which is kind of touches a lot on this. But it can be helpful, but it can also be painful. I think you have to sit with it, and that's a difficult thing. So it's important to be gentle on yourself, I guess. And I think these things come up, but when you're ready for them, when you're ready to face them as well.
I think too, sometimes the self-healing or spiritual journey is romanticized, and people just think it's like sunshine and rainbows, but it's definitely not. It's heavy stuff before the sunshine and rainbows, and a mix of them. Like it's a whole combo of things, and it's definitely a journey. But I think that what do they call it? Like shadow work.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the time I've experienced the same as you, like intense memories coming up and like really heavy emotions, like you don't want to sit with it, but then you recognize that like if you just do it in little increments, like you don't need to push yourself. You don't need to sit there and be like, I feel horrible and I need to push through. Like it should be a somewhat enjoyable process when you're doing that shadow work, but it can be incrementally, and then little by little you'll start to like chip away at those parts and start to heal it more and more. And I think that but I do think sometimes it's like, or what do they say, it's like toxic positivity and stuff a lot in the spiritual realm. It's like or the healing realm, and it's like, you know, good vibes only, like GVO, but it's like no, like you have to clear the bad stuff to get the good stuff. And then also once you get to the good point, like I still am working through so much stuff, you know what I mean? Like it's a total wave throughout our whole life. But that's why these things are good too, because once you have the tools, you have the modalities, and you can just flip into them at any time. And you can just be like, okay, now I know how to meditate, so like this problem doesn't feel as daunting, or like this emotion doesn't feel as heavy, you know.
And I think just to add, in my experience, because I have also had some dark moments when meditating, because you can feel like you're losing yourself a bit. And I think it's just about learning to come back to yourself, which is quite intense, but like coming back inside you and knowing that it's okay. Thank you for your question. Derek.
Yeah, I think this kind of builds a bit on what you all have been talking about, but to reach the space where you are, it requires a bit of a lifestyle change. So you alluded to like small incremental changes you can make to kind of achieve that state or space. If you were to give advice to everyone in this room on like a 1% change that they could incorporate into their daily life to like help adopt a ritual to get them into the mindset of shifting into that space, what would it be?
Before you guys answer, I came across this quite funny quote the other day, which said you should meditate for 20 minutes a day, and if you're too busy for 20 minutes, you should meditate for an hour.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, and I'd also, just a really simple one is probably, and useful one, is like keeping your phone, like not going on your phone, try and set like a certain amount of time before you go to bed and not look at your phone. And that does change my life.